In this video, we further enhance the realism of our minis by putting terrain on their bases. What up, mini people? Most, if not all, 3D miniatures come on a base. This base is responsible for keeping the model upright, and they come in all shapes and sizes, squares and circles, ovals, and even more. Unfortunately for us, these bases look kind of lame next to our amazingly painted miniatures, and they also detract from the realism of our piece. What we do as miniature painters to subvert this is to put terrain on these bases. This terrain serves a variety of functions. 1, it masks the giant hunk of plastic under our models. 2, it serves as a unifying feature amongst all of the units in our armies. And 3, it has some storytelling device. In Warhammer Fantasy, Warriors of Chaos come from the frozen Chaos North, so you'll see lots of Warriors of Chaos players putting snow on their bases to kind of serve this end. But there is no limit to this. You could do barren wastelands, green pastures. Really the only limitation is your imagination. So where do we start? I like to start with my base terrain. Oftentimes this is the finest gravel I'm going to use on my base. This can be anything from sand or pebbles to even natural dirt you find outside. If you do use natural products, make sure they're thoroughly dry before adhering them to the base. To adhere this terrain to the base, I use PVA glue. If you don't have traditional PVA glue lying around, feel free to use Elmer's glue, which is a type of PVA glue with a bit of extra tackiness. Use a crappy brush and coat the top of your mini's base in straight glue, no thinning, and run your finger along the edge of the base to wipe away any glue that got on the edge, and then dunk the mini in a tub of basic terrain or sprinkle it on. At this point, you may have some extraneous terrain on the sides of the base. Again, just run your thumb along the edge and clean up the edge. Terrain can be a little bit more random than this, however. To introduce some randomness into our finer grain, we can mix in some larger pebbles. Alternatively, if you're using dirt in the first place, that oftentimes comes random because we're trying to emulate nature, and that is nature. After this layer is mostly dry, it's time to start embellishing it. You can add larger rocks, pieces of cork, skulls, bricks, shell casings, whatever you see fit to bring your world to life. I would adhere these extra bits with superglue. Sometimes if you're working with a larger base, it'll call for more of these extra bits to take up the increased surface area. PVA glue takes a while to dry. To accelerate the drying, you can put it in front of a window on a warm day. I would avoid the hairdryer at this point, as oftentimes it will blow pieces of terrain off your base, leaving pitting everywhere. Terrain on its own is kind of weak and will flake off. At this point, what I do is take another layer of thinned down PVA glue and put it over top of the gravel to seal it all in. Alternatively, if you base the miniature before priming, you could prime the mini and the terrain all at once. This not only saves time, but it also acts as a unifying layer on all of your gravel, and it primes little plastic bits you could have superglued to the base. Really, this is what you should do, I just couldn't fit it into the model prep video. Now we need to paint your base. The choices you make here are dependent upon the world your mini lives in. For the Space Marine army I'm working on, they live on an ashen wasteland area. So I paint the terrain black and dry brush it a dark gray, followed by a lighter gray. Washing and dry brushing are fantastic techniques for terrain because of the high texture of the basing material allows for lots of nooks and crannies for the wash to rest. And the dustiness of dry brushing looks quite natural. Now it's time to add some grass if you want. There are a variety of grasses to pick from, ranging from different colors and consistencies. For my bases, I take a bit of PVA glue and place it randomly on the base, and stick some grass clumps to the glue. I then blow off the extra. At this point, you could also use superglue to adhere the grass to your base, but be careful not to apply superglue too thickly, as this can oftentimes fog up the paint job on your base. In my experience, PVA glue holds up well over time. If you have any ugly bits on your base at this point, you can hide them fairly well with clumps of grass. Finally, the last and, in my opinion, one of the most important steps of this process is to paint the rim of your base. Seriously, just do it. Clean that edge up so it looks nice and crispy. It's such a shame to see a nicely painted mini and a base model with a dirty base rim. Take 30 seconds and clean it up. The world of terrain is vast, and I only covered a fraction of it. To be inspired, check out Woodland Scenics, which can be found in a lot of hobby stores, or alternatively, check out Secret Weapon, which is an online store. Well, now you're a pro baser. Go forth and base all your miniatures, ideally before priming. It really does add that last layer of unification and realism to your army. I want to take this time to give a shout out to a fellow miniature YouTuber. If you've never seen a Sarastro's painting tutorial, you know you're in for a treat and probably an afternoon of binge watching all his tutorials. I know I did. Check out here his latest Zombicide tutorial. And now for our community highlight time. This week we have Stormcast's Eternal models from Divas89. This guy's got down the basic skills that my beginner series is all about. Very nice and clean paint job. I can't wait to see what he starts learning next. If you want to see your minis at the end of a video, check out the description below. If you guys know a mini man or woman who could benefit from the information in this video, please share it with him or her. But most importantly, don't forget to paint more minis. Your goal is to remove the majority of the moisture from the paint so that most of the dry pigments of the paint are left behind. Then, lightly brush with the very fine edge highlighting with the size 2 brush. Next, we need a stable grip on the miniature. This can be true for all parts of miniature painting, but more so from circles and squares to ovals. Ovals? That's a shape. La 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 la. So you'll see lots of warriors and chaos players that go forth and base all your miniatures, preferably before priming. That's a wrap.